college football's back, thankfully. The same moxie and promotional aspect of Deion Sanders to me, I guess it's back, but not the confident Deion Sanders. I don't get this vibe. And he spent more time, I feel like, we've certainly covered this more, about what he has to say or what he doesn't want to hear from reporters than his actual team, where he, again, apparently has a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, his son, Shedeur Sanders, and on the outside, one of the more prolific players in college football, if not the best player, just true football player, where he plays wide receiver and corner. But yet, here we are with Deion Sanders yet again going through his receipts. And, well, he, of course, didn't want to take questions from CBS Sports, but it was really a CBS affiliate station that was asking a question, CBS affiliate out of Denver, local coverage. No, not taking your question. Not talking to CBS. Nothing against you. You know, you're fine, but not taking CBS questions. They had a columnist, Sean Keeler, from the Denver Post. He's not allowed to ask questions either because he's too harsh, too critical with some of the things being said about Deion Sanders this year. And that was the university athletic department decision. Most recently, in depth, we've discussed the story and the report from Athlon Sports where we hear about craziness going on beneath the surface at Colorado. Now, that guy doesn't go out and cover the team on a daily basis, but nonetheless, Colorado, you better believe they had no comment, just like Deion would have no comment if that guy wanted to ask a question. We had the report from the staffer who resigned last week, special teams coordinator, quote unquote, making what, $80,000, $90,000, but went to the Middle East to recruit private equity through the Public Investment Fund and resigned and wrote an open letter that included the details of all of this. Colorado apparently turned this down. What they're not doing is allowing the media to do its job. And most recently, as of today, here's this audio, and it's from the Out of Pocket with RG3 podcast. You're going to hear from his wife, Greta Griffin, as well. Deion Sanders ripping Paul Feinbaum for Feinbaum being critical of the Colorado football program.
So when you hear guys like Paul Feinbaum calling your program irrelevant,
Colorado is nothing. They don't matter. They're irrelevant in the big picture of college football.
You're talking about us. How can we be irrelevant and you talking about me?
Yeah.
Like, every time I turn around, somebody's sending me a quote that you talking about.
He's a fan.
How? well, the thing about a fan, you got to understand, a fan only blows when you're hot. Ooh. So we must be hot. I know what he's doing, and I'm proud of him, that he's smart enough to understand that this generation and this thought process and the way we communicate on sports is different, and he's a dying breed. So what does he have to do to stay and keep up with this change? Oh, I got to go find that big bad wolf and talk about it.
Yeah.
So now I keep my relevancy. And I'm saying, cool, but I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to add to you. I'm not going to respond, because that's what you want. Yeah, you just want me to respond. I don't do that. I'm not going to help you come up.
I love it. Listen, there's so many layers to that reference that you made.
Right.
He said, I got to go find the big bad wolf.
That's right.
And he got that great beard.
That's right. That's right.
Look at him.
That's right.
Not going to respond. I would love for Deion Sanders to respond to questions being asked if they happen to be tough or negative. We're not hearing that. That from, again, the Out of Pocket podcast with RG3. Chad, Deion Sanders, because he's definitely keeping receipts. Coaches do that, by the way. It's not just prime time. He might want to check out next what Las Vegas and the odds makers think about the Colorado football program. Because last year at this time, they're about to go kick off on the road against TCU. And tomorrow, Thursday night, FCS opponent, North Dakota State comes to town. 12 months after they go and upset TCU, they're hosting North Dakota State, and they're just over a one-possession favorite now. That's what Las Vegas thinks about Colorado going up against North Dakota State. Keep in mind, we're not talking about some scrub program from FCS. They win titles there. That's all well and good. Chad, North Dakota State, they're coming and they expect to win. That's what they do. And I'm curious, when Colorado kicks things off, if Deion's thinking about the receipts and making sure to get a jab in postgame when they beat an FCS opponent only because they were favored by, 10 points, 9.5, whatever it might be currently. Go crush them. Look across the country at some of these spreads. Tennessee's what, a 38-point favorite?
Yeah.
Opening weekend. Hawaii.
Over a team, by the way, that is like right on the top 10 of FCS, like North Dakota State.
Hawaii got their ass kicked by Vanderbilt. Hawaii was a 40-point favorite last week. 40 points at home. Now, granted, it's to a football program that's not good. But that same Hawaii program is favored by 40 in a game. And Colorado is favored by barely a two-possession score. Imagine if they did take the funding from the Public Investment Fund and the private equity. This approach, Chad, is showing more of his insecurities to me. It's odd, and here's hoping that whenever things go as they should, I'm not on the Colorado bandwagon this week. Many people are jumping off of it. All that to say, when things go well against an FCS opponent, what I don't want is the rhetoric to go back to what they were doing a year ago, which was Deion Sanders is the hype man. It's the Dana White promotional fight night leading up to kickoff. Week 2, by the way, is Nebraska. And post-game, the guy that talks trash is Shedeur Sanders. And we haven't heard from him yet. Both keep receipts. And what happens, Chad, if they lose? The media also keeps receipts.
Absolutely.
I'm really, and I have backed Deion with the way he's managed the last year. I'm really surprised by this. We're 24 hours away from kickoff. And all we've heard over the last, 2.5, 3 weeks is Deion Sanders versus media member X, who in some cases don't even have anything to do with the coverage he's complaining about. It's bizarre. He's certainly not alone on his island doing this, but he loves this. And I don't understand how it helps the program as you lead into the season where you're trying to prove people that you're a bowl caliber team.
See, I think the way that he's managed the program with decisions on, and we've had the reports about players who have left and how they really did not handle things well when they got there in terms of letting guys, try to keep their spots in the team and then unceremoniously booting them from the roster after spring. And the way they're trying to completely turn over their roster again through the transfer portal this year and kick other guys off the team that they don't feel like they're up to snuff, however they do it. I don't like the way he's managed. I don't like being forced to go to a Lil Wayne concert that his son's opening for because they got to go support his son. I don't like a lot of the reports and things coming out of Colorado that Deion Sanders never completely refutes. If there was lies being told about the program, he's got the platform. He could go on any show. They could release a statement. They could do a lot of different things to deny it. There's not a lot of denials. Whenever anyone criticizes Colorado, it's just, they're haters. Haters going to hate. They just don't like us. They don't know us. They don't like us. They're just trying to be relevant. That's the new one now with Paul Feinbaum. But I got to say, Hutton, when I watched the video of him with RG3, he's got the white beard, and he's very calm, and he's, fan only blows when it's hot. That's what I know. I mean, he sounds like a poet. I love it.
He always has.
And when I see the guy on camera and I hear him responding to quote-unquote the haters, I think he's wrong. I think the way he's managed the program is wrong. But damn it if I don't find it likable.
Well,
even when he's on with RG3 talking about Paul Feinbaum being irrelevant, and this is how he holds on to relevance. Point being, if Deion Sanders handled this in a smarter fashion, instead of blocking the Denver Post columnist, you welcome the Denver Post columnist. You welcome the haterade, and you throw the haterade right back at the haters. That's where Deion Sanders excels. Deion versus the world. When he gets his team thinking that way and he acts that way, it's good. When you behave like a petulant child that wants to take their ball and go home, you look like a loser. So that's where I can't square this with Deion right now. Again, I think he's mismanaged the program at times since he's been at Colorado. I think he is a PR hype machine. That's a good thing for Colorado. I want to see more of this. I want to see more interviews with Deion, whether it be on RG3's podcast or wherever. I like him in this podcast when I watch it. Yet it doesn't square with the Deion we see lately that's censoring people and blocking access to those that disagree with him.
But also,
why not welcome them in and then trash talk them?
Well, but so he did that last year. Now, then he kept receipts, and it was post-game pressers where he then gave out those receipts. Remember ESPN and Ed Werder?
Yeah.
Like, Ed Werder doesn't cover anything.
He was just in town
he was
for the
in
game.
Dallas.
Yeah.
He was in
I don't
Dallas.
know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, like I think it's very predictable what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
Colorado wins the game, and then after beating an FCS opponent, there's going to be trash talk at the podium. Like, he was, doubted. Well, I mean, look, and we were talking about relevance. What Feinbaum actually said wasn't that they're irrelevant altogether. Big picture of college football, they're irrelevant. And that's absolutely true. That he said, big picture of college football, there is no relevancy. And he says Feinbaum's a dying breed. And you're talking about it. You're talking about a dying breed in Feinbaum, too. And it's because he feels slighted about literally anything that isn't asking about his birthday celebrations and their plans.
Well, and a lot of it's been coddled for too long with people around him that support him and not having tough challenges thrown his way or by the people closest to him and or questions asked of him. So he's been insulated in that way when you look at his time in Colorado especially. And he is right in that Paul Feinbaum's not being asked questions on, is it First Take? Yeah, on First Take about Deion Sanders unless they're relevant. So kind of one hand feeds the other, right? Well,
sure.
I'm not relevant.
I mean,
he's sitting there talking about me and he's being asked the question.
They're relevant.
But Paul Feinbaum, when he goes on ESPN shows, doesn't control the questions asked to him that he's going to comment on. And I think what Paul Feinbaum is saying is also correct. Deion is relevant. All these things can be true. Deion Sanders is absolutely relevant to college football because he's a gigantic celebrity that has turned the sport up on its head. It's made us rethink NIL, coaching kids, your own kids. How quickly can you get a job going? How can you get buzz around a program? It's made us rethink all these things. The other part of this that's true is he's 4-8. He's a 4-8 head football coach at Colorado. And he's got a lot of swagger, and everyone around him's got a lot of swagger, and they haven't earned it yet. And I think all of those parts of this are true, which makes for a compelling story. And Hutton, I think you're right. Seeing how he responds to what I believe will be a win over North Dakota State after the game is going to be telling. If he takes the approach you're saying, and he comes in there with the shades on, and I want this reporter up here on the podium right now, on the dais, I've got words to say to you. And he's going to start reading them the riot act versus, hey, that's one game. We played pretty well. There's some things we got to get better on, but we're 1-0. We were 4-8 a year ago, and our goal is to win a lot more than 4 games this year. If he takes that approach, then I think we're all going to be nodding our heads saying, okay.
And look,
all right, let's see it.
I said last year, all season, and all offseason, it's hard for me to find issue with what and how he handled last season from the podium. But it's pretty easy to find issue with how he's handled things now. And again, you do this a month and a half ago if you want. You do this whenever Feinbaum's at SEC Media Days. If you want to respond immediately, you don't do it right before the game. All you do is just go win. That will shut people up. And instead, I think we're headed down a path of, we got to get our guys focused, but you guys aren't mentioning Shedeur for Heisman. Why? And that's going to be another storyline altogether. Travis Hunter also needs to be mentioned. Where's everyone writing about this?
Yeah.
Look at these numbers.
That's why some back and forth would be a great thing for Deion Sanders. Instead of blocking those out that you disagree with, go on Paul Feinbaum's show. Go do something else where people challenge you, because he excels in those situations where he's confronted and where he's put into a corner. I think Deion does great in those spots. I'd love to see that back and forth with someone, because if he were to come to me and say, hey, you don't have Shedeur on the Heisman watch list, or Travis or whoever. By the way, I would have Travis Hunter on the Heisman watch list, and I've seen him on a number of them. But regardless, if he came and said that, I'd say, hey, how many quarterbacks of 4-8 teams last year do you see in the top 5 of the Heisman preseason watch list? That's why.
Yes.
So that's why he's not there.
If you got a quarterback,
Pretty simple explanation.
If you got a quarterback on the Heisman watch list and you have Travis Hunter on the outside, it's not like they have 2 first-round offensive linemen projected to go next year in the NFL draft. It's a quarterback and a wide receiver. You go beat down North Dakota State. I realize I'm saying that it's easier said than done, but you've revamped the entire O-line, and you have Shedeur, who's a first-round pick, and Travis Hunter, who, again, might be the best college football player. This isn't an issue. And Vegas is saying last week it's an 8.5-point spread. Now I believe it's up to 10.
Yep.
And Vegas always knows. If you look at the trends, they tend to know. They didn't get the TCU game right last year. But this is odd.
They're also really clearly favored in like 1 or 2 games. The rest of the way after this one, I know Cincinnati, they're a clear favorite, but outside of that, there's like 7 games that are just swing games.
Yeah.
They're under, if you look at and they don't have all of them out permanently, but you can look at the long Vegas odds of the whole season. And going into it, it's either they are a 1-possession underdog or 1-possession favorite in about 6 or 7 games. But most of them, they're the underdog going into it. That's why it's going to be very hard to get to 6-6, because they're not going to be favored in half of their games. They're just not. And that's what Vegas thinks of them. Hutton, kind of closing this thing out with Deion. I'll say this about the upcoming season, as we are now 25 hours and 41 minutes away from kicking off the college football season. Whatever happens in this game or this season for Colorado, it's going to feel earned. A year ago felt like smoke and mirrors, even the fast start. And it turned out to be true. It was
You knew the wall was about to hit.
Year 2 with his son at quarterback, his other son at safety in Shiloh, and then Travis Hunter. It feels earned. It feels like whatever happens for Colorado this year, good or bad, I feel like Deion's earned it. I feel like he has planted the seeds, good or bad. Poisonous or fruitful, whatever they are, it's going to come to fruition this year, one way or the other. And this is going to feel real. Whereas a year ago felt like smoke and mirrors regardless of what happened. But what turned out to happen was pretty much what everybody expected with the record. This upcoming season to me feels legit.
And regardless of if it was smoke and mirrors, the national viewing audience bought into it.
And if they go 7-5 or 8-4, everyone who's doubted Deion Sanders, me included, come back here and say, hey, he was right, I was wrong. He knows what he's doing, and they've got it rolling. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think the bad things are going to be earned for Colorado this year, but we get to see it starting very soon against North Dakota State.
This will segue into Chad, a discussion on Connor Stalions in just a moment. From Front Office Sports, Colorado, tied in Deion, they've alleged that Oregon accessed its program's private football data last season. It just from A.J. Perez at Front Office Sports. Deion Sanders proclaimed there were no excuses after Colorado's 42-6 loss to Oregon last September. But in the aftermath of their first loss after starting 3-0, Colorado football staffers identified multiple potential instances into the team's online service that stores practice video and other data. This is a source with direct knowledge of the matter telling AJ Perez in Front Office Sports. Sanders, Deion, was involved in the initial outreach to the Pac-12, and that's where Colorado alleged that Oregon played a role in the unauthorized access and said the same source as well as the second source with first. So AJ's got two sources on that it was Colorado alleging that Oregon did this. The Pac-12, they took the allegation seriously. Conference officials reached out to the Colorado Athletic Department, and they wanted more information and wanted to pursue the investigation. They wanted to know if Colorado wanted to do it. And this could have included an FBI probe, and any illegal issues that came from that would have been a criminal matter. And Colorado backed off of it.
Well, if there's some sort of data breach or hacking incident into their computer systems and everything, yeah, it's a huge crime.
They did not provide the Pac-12 with evidence that Oregon or any other entity or person was involved in this issue, in this alleged hack. The source just said they chose not to move forward.
Yeah,
just like they did, by the way, with the private investment,
so
the private equity.
Sounds like the boy who cried wolf to me. In all of
yes.
Okay. FBI's going to get involved. No, we're not. We're going to stop.
But it sounds like Connor Stalions in Michigan.
Yeah.
And what Connor Stalions is alleging in the Untold series on Netflix, Sign Stealer, that his laptop was hacked and breached, and they illegally obtained information because he didn't give it to anybody. I enjoyed the Untold Sign Stealer documentary last night with Stalions. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it too. I thought it was very entertaining. In terms of new information, I think some of the background of Connor Stalions, his time at the Naval Academy and the Marines, his childhood, some of that stuff was good and new. I didn't know all of that. How he originally got into it at Michigan with his role as an analyst. Some of that stuff was very interesting. Here's the shocking takeaway for me, because I said yesterday I feel like this whole thing is just going to piss me off with Connor Stalions, even more about Michigan and the myth of the Michigan man and that whole part of it, which I thought the reporter from the Detroit paper did a good job of dispelling the Michigan man, as I would have as well in this whole thing. My conclusion is that Connor Stalions is a badass, quite frankly. I was very impressed. I'm very impressed with his mind. I'm very impressed with his organizational skills. I'm very impressed with his talent as a intelligence, counterintelligence, sort of espionage operative. And I keep asking myself, watching this documentary, one question and one question only. How did the United States Naval Academy let this guy get away? Because his talents were wasted on Michigan football. I'm watching Connor Stalions thinking, why are you not trying to decipher China and Russia for the United States government and for the Navy right now? I understand you love Michigan football and you helped win them a national title, and all of that's great. But I'm listening to Connor Stalions talk, and this dude, his dad, I think, described it as kind of a Rain Man type deal, or maybe it was his friend, that his brain kind of works in a Rain Man type capacity. I'm watching it thinking, this guy's outstanding. Now, he's not necessarily lying about everything, but he's certainly not being truthful about anything. I thought it was very revealing to get the NCAA Zoom interview with him and his two attorneys flanking him. I thought that was great. And when asked directly, were you at the Central Michigan game, his response was all but, I was there. I just can't recall specific games I attended or specific games. They followed up, and then he looks to his attorney. His attorney said, he's answered the question. Then the next attorney, this interview's over now. We're done with that. I thought the Connor Stalions piece of this impressed me. The links that he went to, the way he organized the signs, him taking all the photos of the different signs to kind of give himself a photographic memory of what every signal looks like. I thought it was incredibly impressive. I think it absolutely aided Michigan during that time. You cannot tell me that did not help them greatly. Didn't mean that that's the sole reason they won the national title, but it absolutely helped them throughout that great three-year run for Michigan football. And Hutton, I see people like this, and I think it's great for Michigan that he, channeled all of that energy into that. But I think, did we just waste a great mind? I know he's still young, but on Michigan football when he could be working for the military somewhere else who went to the United States Naval Academy. Clay's brought this up. We'll bring this up to him too. He's argued forever Nick Saban has been wasted on Alabama football. Nick Saban should be the president. He's so good and so talented and so organized and such a good leader. You can actually ask the question, is that the type of person who should lead the United States and not lead Alabama football?
But you have to have the guy who wants to be in that
You got to have
spot.
the passion for it.
I mean, Saban doesn't want to be the commissioner of college football right now.
Right.
He's admitted that. Connor Stalions, I don't think the military let him get away. He says leading into I think his first 15 minutes, I joined the military because I wanted to be a coach. I was going to coach. That specifically, that is why he did it.
Yeah.
And then he's a diehard. The other cool thing about it, I loved how they followed him at the national championship game. And I love how they mocked the NCAA because they have him reading the quotes yesterday is different than hearing him and how he comes across and the smirks and stuff. It's tongue in cheek, but he admits it by having Portnoy 2 seconds later tell the truth. And that's how they get it. Everything happened. And I'm sitting there watching it going, yeah, we knew it all happened. But the NCAA have no subpoena power. He lawyers up. He did a smart thing by doing that and the way he handled it. And the island that he was on by himself, that was really surprising to me too. And for Harbaugh not to know about this, but multiple players and friends on campus knowing who he is, he's wearing a mask, he's covering his face, and he's got one of the players laughing because he sees him after they beat Ohio State. Or was it Ohio State or national championship?
Ohio State.
Either way, he's trying to disguise himself, and he comes by barely and says, hey, congrats. And turns around and looks. It's obvious. But this is what we've spent all our time on. And the NCAA is so pissed off that they're going to give sanctions to Kentucky.
Well,
because they'll take it.
And
you get what I'm saying?
And he gets a 3-year. They had the little update where he's getting a 3-year, ban from college sports or whatever. I hope I left this thinking, I hope he gets back into football. I did too.
No, he's high school coach.
I left it thinking, I kind of hope this guy is the head coach of Navy one day. I want to see him get back seriously into football at some point.
You know what helps him though?
I thought he was a little smug, but kind of played it off well about certain things. Certainly, he was being evasive on purpose.
Yeah.
With a lot of the questions. But you're right about the Portnoy thing. He said, yeah, I know it was him. Why? Because Connor told me it was him at the Central Michigan
they're
State
friends.
game.
So, how many of these Untolds is or not even it's not just Netflix. Even The Last Dance. Jordan is the main, behind the scenes producer, right? Executive producer. And you have NFL Films and Hard Knocks. Team has final say. If I don't know the specifics of how he got involved in this, but he wasn't able to speak, and now he's able to speak. They released this. They had amazing access to him and his family. And if he wanted it out of there, I'm sure they would have taken it out of there.
Yeah,
That's what's so funny about it is he's letting it out there and, just shakes his head whenever another reporter says, you got to be an idiot to have a Venmo account that's public.
Yeah.
And he just stares at the camera and goes, shakes his head like, yeah, I was an idiot.
I thought that he was leaning into puff piece territory it was about an hour and a half, hour and 38 minutes, I think, the whole documentary.
Yeah.
At about the 50-minute mark, when it got to Jim Harbaugh's been suspended and the player is talking about the linebacker, I'm blanking on his name, they landed in Happy Valley or for the Penn State game and their phone's blowing up and their coach has been suspended. And then it was, oh boy, it's Michigan versus the world now, and we're going to go on this wrecking crew tour. And all that.
The memes.
And then it got in his family's defending Connor Stalions and, all these things are happening with me and out of my control. They pulled it back in with the separate allegations that Brohio, which whatever, we'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah.
The separate allegations about he's buying all these tickets. We have proof of it. His Venmo account is public. He got guys tickets to 50-yard line in the same spot. Oh, people saw them filming during, and then you're not hearing from Connor Stalions from a while. They're showing a headline of Tennessee accuses him of illegally taping them, getting ready. And I'm thinking, okay, now we're getting it going again, because the whole time I'm watching with my wife, Angie, and she even says, so it's not that big of a deal what he did? Everybody does it. The sign stealing stuff. I was kind of trying to get an understanding of it. And we get going. And I said, everybody can sign steal. The question is whether or not everyone goes on site and does it to this extent. And to me, the most damning thing is, was he out there paying people to spy to negatively affect other outcomes not involving Michigan to help Michigan? And in that case, it becomes a much bigger scandal. And to me, a much bigger deal. And what the documentary showed was, this was my conclusion, that's what he was doing.
Oh, of course.
He was paying people to go watch it. His mom wouldn't even say for sure what she was there doing when she went to a Purdue game.
The NCAA directly asked him in the interview about it, and he was like, "I don't recall that going to a specific.
I've gotten
game.
a lot of tickets for a lot of people,
and a specific
I don't
game,
recall
the Central
specific
Michigan.
games.
Yeah.
But even I'm saying the paying of his little spies, his Marines buddy, and other people, analysts, Division III coaches that did this for him.
It lacked two things. Maybe I overlooked this. Did it have the NCAA president saying that they want it fair and square?
No.
Okay. It lacked that context. But it also,
Jim Harbaugh would have been awesome to get on camera. But, of course, we know why he's not.
Because he says he didn't know the guy.
He abandoned ship. Yeah. By the way, Connor Stalions presenting the game ball that says Connor Stalions and repeating what Jim Harbaugh said, saying, now don't go getting a big head, Connor, as he gave him the game ball is amazing.
Yes. It lacked the Michigan side of it. They clearly aren't going to do anything like that. No one contacted him. It also lacked this. It lacked what's happening now. Sharon Moore, and the fact that they kept winning, they put that in there, but it lacked TCU. And the fact that the NCAA didn't even call TCU to figure out how TCU knew to change the signs. How did they know that? I would have done that in this doc piece as well, and then asked him about that game.
It's a good point. I can overlook some of those things. You can't get to everything in an hour and a half.
I mean, they did a lot in an hour and a half, though.
They did a lot, and it was a good character study. My big takeaway was this documentary is as much about the power of fandom as it is anything else. Not just specifically Connor Stalions, but the links that diehard fans will go to gain access to a program, to help that program help make them happy. That moment on camera, and I agree with you, Hut, amazing footage of him watching them win the national title and and going nuts with his fans and then crying, the single tear, and I'm thinking, the lengths that guy went to, he did so much work, so much effort, got very little pay, almost no recognition. And the moment it went public, all the work and hard work he did to help Michigan, everyone rolled on him. And he was fine with it. He took it. He resigned. He backed away. And he did all of this, took on all the shame, did everything because, damn it, he just loves maize and blue so much and loves Michigan and would do anything to help them. The almost cuckold mentality of that with him is truly fascinating to me. And the fact that Jim Harbaugh, who handed him the game ball, and he can just say, I don't really even know the guy. We got a lot of people running around here. And that he's fine with it.
I had no idea what he was doing.
I mean, in the documentary months later, what is he saying? I just didn't want to hurt Coach Harbaugh, who gave me this chance to be around the program. He did this and that. And I'm thinking, dude, look at what you did for Jim Harbaugh. Look at all the great things you provided him. Look at the 3-year run you're associated with. Look at all the hard work and staying up all night doing this stuff that you didn't even really get paid for. You were an intern for part of the time. Like, what about what you did for Jim Harbaugh? But instead, no, I just wanted Coach Harbaugh to not be implicated, so I will fall on the sword. I did all the wrong. They asked nothing, and I'm thinking, man, it's one of the better documentaries about the power of being a college football fan that I've ever seen.
Well,
because Connor Stalions may be the biggest fan of all time.
Fan that then did what he wanted to do, his dream of being with the program. And he loves the game. He's coaching high school football right now. He's not hosting a podcast like I thought he might do.
Yeah.
Because of his, star
He's
power.
living in Detroit and coaching a high school team.
In a weird way, props to Connor Stalions. And it, Chad, you said, well, I know I'm going to be pissed off tonight when I watch it when you said that yesterday. I just left shaking my head again about the NCAA. Like the whole thing is just
I really
so
hope
stupid.
Watching this, again, I think Michigan's arrogance should be punished in all this. Not Connor Stalions, because he went silent when he got caught and all this stuff happened until the documentary.
Yeah.
Michigan's arrogance should be punished in this because they've been incredibly arrogant throughout. And if they would have handled this from a PR standpoint and just said, yeah, this stuff probably happened. We think it happens in a lot of places, but we've stopped. We've addressed it. We're moving on. It would have been a lot better for them. But I also left the documentary really hoping that someone stays loyal to Connor Stalions in all this. One of those Michigan coaches that moves on to bigger and better things or gets a head job somewhere else in 3 years' time, Connor Stalions better be his receivers coach or something on staff. General manager, right? Like our guy Barton Simmons over here at Vanderbilt. Something.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see his loyalty to that program and all of those coaches rewarded in some way, and that they don't just forget about him in all of this. Because, like it or not, Michigan fans, that dude played a part in your national title. He did. He's not the only reason, but he's a reason. He's one of them. Don't act like it wasn't nothing. It was something. I mean, he says on camera, was I wrong? Not really. Not on many plays.
He's not sorry at all.
I wasn't wrong. On many plays, he's saying, did you guess wrong? No. I had the signs.
He's got him.
He got him.
And how many other programs got him? That's the next.
I want to see the guy. I want to see the guy's name 3 years from now in a college program somewhere. I want to see him on the sideline.
General manager of the new power conference, Connor Stalions.
Head coach of the Naval Academy.
Maybe commissioner of college football, Connor Stalions. Let's go higher.
I'll tell you what, they'll get the jump on every other organization if that's the case. I don't know about his management style, but I know his espionage style, and it's really good.